She said she had a migraine. That's how it started. Just 4 stupid words thrown at me over her shoulder while she walked into the bedroom, dropped her purse like it was too heavy to carry, and shut the door. No kiss, no eye contact. A migraine. That was her excuse. But it wasn't just the way she said it. It was what she didn't say. No, hey, how was work? No, glad you're home. And definitely no apology for being gone the night before, coming in at 2:13 a.m., the door clicking behind her like a guilty whisper. When I'd asked, she waved it off with, it was just a long night with the girls. You wouldn't get it. Here's what I didn't get. Her heels were off when she walked in, and I knew her well enough to know she never walked barefoot outside. Her lipstick was smudged, not the kind of smudge from wear, but the kind that comes from contact. There was a reddish mark on her neck she didn't notice, and I didn't point it out. But I noticed everything. I remember just standing in the hallway looking at the bedroom door she'd closed in my face. My dinner, takeout sushi she used to beg for, was getting cold on the kitchen counter. I left it there. Ate nothing that night. The next day, I decided not to go to work. Told my boss I needed a personal day. I wasn't sure what I was looking for exactly, but I needed to be in that house when she thought I wasn't supposed to be. Around 11:30 a.m., the front door opened. She didn't even call out for me. I watched from behind the door of my home office as she strutted in wearing a hoodie I'd never seen before and someone else's cologne clinging to it. She looked smug, like she'd just gotten away with something. Then she did something she'd never done in the middle of the day. She poured herself a drink. Whiskey, neat. She stood in the living room, sipped it slow, then pulled out her phone. She dialed. Her voice went soft, fake soft. I told him I had a migraine, she said, laughing under her breath. He's such a little puppy. Still thinks I'm his perfect girl. My jaw tightened so hard I heard a click. She kept talking. Yeah. Last night was insane. I still feel you on me. Can't stop thinking about it. No, not tonight. He's getting suspicious. I'll say I'm visiting mom or something. She chuckled, swirling the drink like this was just a game. She sat on the couch, curled up like she owned the world, and talked about me like I was some sad joke she was obligated to tolerate. And that's when I knew. It wasn't just cheating. It wasn't just betrayal. It was contempt. She didn't just lie to me, she laughed at me behind my back. Lied effortlessly. Had a whole other life tucked behind a smirk and a hangover. I didn't confront her that day. I didn't even make a sound. I just stood there, listening, learning. Because I needed to know who I was really dealing with. That night, she came to bed like nothing happened. Kissed my cheek like she was clocking into a job she hated. Said love you like it was a password to peace. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long she'd been this good at pretending. Wondering if she'd ever meant any of it. This wasn't a story about love gone wrong. This was war. And I was done playing the fool. She wasn't expecting me to come home early on Friday. I told her I had a meeting that would run late, something about server migration and after-hours troubleshooting. She nodded, distracted, swiping through her phone like I was a mosquito buzzing in the background. She barely looked up. I parked 2 blocks away. Walked back in the drizzle. Waited. No lights on in the house except the one in our bedroom upstairs. The same room where we used to talk until midnight about our future. The same room where she now curled up next to someone else while I imagined we were still something worth salvaging. At 7:12 p.m. a car pulled up in front of our driveway. A silver Audi I'd never seen before. He didn't knock. Just walked in like he owned the place. She'd left the door unlocked. Like she was expecting him. Like it was normal. I stood behind the neighbor's hedges, soaked, stomach in knots. The living room light flicked on. Laughter followed, hers and his. Soft at first, then louder. Like they'd shared a joke at my expense. I counted the minutes. 10 passed. Then 15. I walked to the front door. Quietly turned the knob. Still unlocked. Stepped inside and closed it behind me without a sound. I heard them upstairs. Muffled voices. The creak of the bed. Her voice, high, sweet, fake. His low, confident. Too comfortable. I walked up the stairs like I was in a trance. Each step slower than the last. I wasn't sure what I'd find. I didn't want to see it, not really. But I needed to. I needed her to see me. To see what she'd made of me. I opened the door. She screamed. He jumped back like a scared animal, fumbling for his pants, his face blanched white. She wasn't covered. She didn't bother. Just sat there, her mouth wide open, frozen like a statue mid-lie. My voice was calm. Colder than I expected. Well, I said. This is new. She blinked. Then she laughed. Not nervous. Not scared. Laughed like I just walked in wearing clown shoes. What, are you gonna cry? She spat, grabbing the sheet, not to cover herself, but to lean back against it like a damn queen. You seriously just walked in here like some hero? What did you think you'd do to save the marriage? The guy, tall, gym body, younger than me, stood there half-dressed, not saying a word. I ignored him. You brought him into her bed, I said, quiet, dead serious. She rolled her eyes. Please. That bed lost meaning months ago. You just didn't notice. There it was. The truth. Ripped from her mouth like it cost her nothing. She was looking at me like I was the weak one. Like I was the one who should be ashamed. I looked around the room. The photos. The souvenirs. Our lives. Get out, I told him. Still calm. He looked at her. She gave a lazy shrug. He left. She stayed. Arms crossed. Still defiant. Thought you'd blow up, she said, arching an eyebrow. Thought you'd scream, beg something. Guess I was wrong. No, I said. You were right. I'm just saving it. She smirked. For what? I stepped closer. She didn't flinch. For the moment you realize what you just lost. She scoffed. What, your love? Your boring little routines? Your pathetic loyalty? I smiled. No. My silence. That was the last thing I said before walking out. Not just of the room. Of the house. But not the story. Not even close. I stayed in a hotel that night. Not because I was afraid. Not because I didn't have the right to sleep in my own house. But because I needed space to think. Not about her, about me. About who I was before I let myself become background noise in my own life. The room was cold. The bed too stiff. The kind of place people rent for a night they don't want to remember. I laid there, fully dressed, staring at the popcorn ceiling like it held answers. And then I started writing things down. Everything I knew. Dates. Times. Names. Her lies, one by one. I opened our shared bank account. Dug through the statements. Found the withdrawals that didn't make sense. 2 nights ago, $360 from a boutique hotel across town. Last month, $120 for a wellness retreat that matched the spa her friend never mentioned again. Then I checked the shared cloud storage. That's when I found it. Photos. She hadn't just taken him to her bed. She'd taken him everywhere. Pictures at that new rooftop bar she claimed she hated. The concert she said her sister got last-minute tickets to. Him holding her waist in a way I hadn't done in over a year. Her laughing, not the fake laugh she gave me, but something real. Or at least realer. She gave him the parts of her I'd been begging to see again. And I realized I'd already lost her long before I walked in on them. She checked out, locked the door behind her, and left me talking to the ghost of someone I used to love. But here's where it turns. The next morning I went back. Not to talk. Not to argue. To gather evidence. She wasn't home. Her car was gone. But she'd gotten careless. Probably still high on the thrill of exposure. She thought I'd run away, tail between my legs. She thought I'd cry at my mother's house or sleep in my car like some spineless husband stuck in a soap opera. Instead, I walked into her house like a man with a mission. I opened her laptop. No password change. Amateur mistake. Emails. Dozens. Sent and received. Some to him. Some to others. She wasn't just cheating, she was living a parallel life. Trips. Flirtations. Private conversations with people I thought were our friends. People who smiled at me, clinked glasses with me at dinner parties. People who knew. She was mocking me in plain sight. And I collected it all. Screenshots. Recordings. Her voice, casual and cruel, planning weekends around my schedule. He's got a quarterly report due. I'll say I'm with mom again. Works every time. I sent it all to myself. Then I sat down on the couch. And waited. She came in like nothing happened. Grocery bags in hand. Humming. Saw me and stopped. You're back, she said, like I'd gone out for milk. I thought you'd be gone longer. I needed a few things. She eyed me. Cautious now. A flicker of something, doubt, maybe fear. I stood up. Calm. Cold. I know everything. She didn't speak. I mean everything. The hotels. The money. The messages. The way you talk about me to people who smile at me like I'm not being gutted in my own home. She dropped the bags. You went through my stuff? You left it all out like you wanted me to find it. Her mask slipped. Good, she snapped. Now you know. Maybe now you'll stop pretending we were ever happy. You were a paycheck, not a partner. I didn't move. I just looked at her, memorizing every word. Then you'll be happy to know the paycheck is about to cut you off. That got her. What does that mean? It means I'm done financing your second life. You can't just. I can, I said. And I will. She rushed toward me, fury blooming in her face, but I stepped back. Picked up my phone. Hit play. Her voice filled the room. Clear. I'd cleaned up the audio. Labeled the files. Her face paled. You recorded me? You said I was a puppy, I said. But even a dog knows when he's being kicked. She stared at me. Speechless. For once. And I walked past her. Again. But this time she knew it wasn't over. It was just beginning. I met with a lawyer that Monday morning. Not the kind you find through a Google search or a TV commercial. This guy was recommended by someone I trusted, a colleague who went through his own private war and came out not just standing, but winning. His office was clean, sharp, like it didn't tolerate messes or emotions. Just results. I handed him a folder. Everything I compiled, dates, messages, recordings. I laid it out like a map to hell. He skimmed through, not reacting much. Until he reached one particular email where she detailed, in her own words, how she planned to keep the idiot around until the mortgage clears. That got a chuckle out of him. She's either cocky or stupid, he said, looking up. Either way, this makes things easier. I asked him straight, can I walk away without her taking half? He nodded. With this? We can do better than half. If she plays it cute in court, we'll bury her under her own words. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel vengeance. I felt, still, for the first time in months. But things weren't that simple. You see, she wasn't just a cheater, she was a strategist. She could manipulate her way through a hurricane and come out dry. And when I got home that night, she was already in position. The kitchen was spotless. Dinner on the stove. Wine on the table. She was in one of those dresses she used to wear when we went on dates back when she cared to pretend. Hey, she said, like nothing happened. I thought we could talk. I said nothing. Just watched. She pulled out my chair for me. Sat across. Looked me dead in the eye. I know I hurt you. I laughed once. Dry. That's the understatement of the decade. I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to understand. I felt trapped. You were always working. Always busy. I needed something that made me feel alive again. Alive? I repeated. So you killed what was left of us. She didn't flinch. She leaned in. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking if you're still willing to fix this. There it was, the twist. The performance. She thought I'd hesitate. She thought I'd sit there, nostalgic, remembering the vacations, the laughs, the soft mornings. But I didn't. You didn't come clean. You got caught. I know. You didn't cry. You laughed in my face. I was scared. You called me pathetic. Weak. You paraded him through her home like a trophy. And now you want a second chance? She blinked. People make mistakes. You made a lifestyle. She straightened up, eyes narrowing. The mask slipped again. So that's it? After all we built, you just throw me away. No, I said. You did that. I'm just taking out the trash. She stood up so fast the chair screeched. You think you're some righteous hero? You're a fool. You'll regret this. I already regret staying this long. She stormed out. Slammed the bedroom door. I didn't follow. I opened the wine. Poured one glass. Sat down and drank it alone. The food stayed untouched. That night she left again. But this time she didn't take her purse. She took my silence for surrender. She forgot silence can be a storm too. And it was about to break. The next morning she was back before sunrise. I heard the front door open, keys tossed carelessly onto the console table like nothing mattered. She was wearing the same clothes she left in, her hair a mess, lipstick smudged across one cheek like a fingerprint of guilt. She didn't say a word. Just stormed past me where I sat in the living room, fully dressed, sipping coffee I hadn't even tasted. She wanted a war of silence now. Fine. But I was already 10 moves ahead. That day I moved money. Not all of it, just enough to draw a line. Separate accounts. Credit card access frozen. Insurance policies updated. I contacted HR and took out a formal declaration of separation. Every step I took was calm, calculated, quiet. But it was warfare in silence. The next bomb dropped faster than I expected. That evening I walked into the kitchen to find her waiting with an envelope in her hand. She looked smug again, wounded but trying to win. What's this? I asked. She tossed it on the table. Your move. Thought I'd make one of mine. I opened it. Inside were photocopies, emails I'd written years ago. Flirty, harmless things sent to a coworker during a rough patch. She had screenshots of messages where I'd vented about our problems, sometimes with bitterness, sometimes with desperation. Nothing intimate, but enough to muddy the waters. You're not the only one who knows how to collect things, she said. I stared at the papers. Then at her. That's what you've got? I asked. For year-old messages and some sarcastic banter during a breakdown? Her smile slipped just a touch. Courts don't need context. Just shadows. No, I said slowly. Courts need patterns. And mine doesn't involve motel rooms, fake names, or emails planning my escape with someone else's husband. That hit her. Don't pretend you're clean, she snapped. I'm not, I said. But I'm not filthy either. And there's a difference. She stepped closer, furious now. You think you're going to come out of this looking like the victim? I am the victim, I said, suddenly louder than I meant to. You invited a stranger into her bed and laughed in my face when I caught you. She froze. That was the first time I'd raised my voice in weeks. I stayed loyal while you mocked me to your friends, made a clown of me at dinners while you looked me in the eyes and told me you loved me with his breath still on your skin. She stepped back like she'd been slapped. And I wasn't done. Every time I asked if something was wrong, you lied. Every time I tried to fix what you were silently dismantling, you told me I was imagining things. You turned me into a ghost. And now you want me to suffer because I dared to wake up. Her expression cracked. That was the moment she realized I wasn't crawling back. I wasn't begging. I was building the gallows. Quietly. Deliberately. I walked past her. I'm filing tomorrow, I said without looking back. And when they ask why, I'll say it simply, she burned the house down and complained about the smoke. The door closed behind me. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel trapped inside my own life. I felt free. But freedom, I was learning, doesn't come clean. It comes with fire. The next few days felt like I was living on a fault line, quiet but trembling beneath the surface. I filed the paperwork, sat in a cold office with a paralegal typing details of a life unraveling. When she asked for the reason, I said irreconcilable differences. She didn't need the poetry. The courts never do. Back home, things shifted. She wasn't pretending anymore. The dinner stopped. The fake smiles were gone. She stopped saying good morning or good night. She existed in the same house like a storm cloud hanging over my shoulder. No thunder yet. Just the pressure. The threat. Then came her first real move. I came home Thursday to find her sitting in the living room with someone I hadn't seen in years, her older brother, Mark. Tall, smug, protective to a fault. The kind of guy who still believed his sister was some innocent girl with a halo over her head. He stood up the moment I walked in. You've got some nerve, he said, stepping between us. I live here, I replied. Try again. She told me everything. Did she? I asked, setting my keys down. What version did she tell this time? Mark took a step closer. She says you've been controlling. Manipulative. Emotionally abusive. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Did she show you the emails? The videos? The receipts for her business trips to hotel rooms with men who aren't her husband? She said you hacked her. I nodded. Right? That's her move now, turn the victim card face up and hope no one sees the blood on her hands. He tried to puff up, but I wasn't scared. Not anymore. Look, I said, calm but firm, you're her brother. I get it. You want to defend her. But don't let her drag you into her fire. You don't know half of what she's done. He didn't respond. Just stood there, jaw tight, trying to fit his sister into the narrative she'd painted for him. She sat quietly behind him, watching. Not a tear. Not a word. Just smirking. Like a queen watching two knights fight over a ruined castle. He left after 15 minutes. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't look me in the eye. The next day, she escalated. I received a call from my HR department. An anonymous tip had been made claiming I was mentally unstable and had made threats against my spouse. Mandatory evaluation. Administrative leave. She wanted to ruin me. But the thing about playing with fire? You eventually forget who's holding the matchbook. I had my documentation. My recordings. My lawyer was already on it. But this wasn't about the courtroom anymore. This was psychological warfare. And she wanted me to break. To snap. To lose control so she could say, see? Told you he was the villain. Instead, I smiled. Because the moment someone shows you they're willing to destroy everything just to win, they've already lost. I started packing that night. Not my clothes. My evidence. I was going to end this on my terms. With every lie she told, I built a truth. Not for her. Not for the courts. For me. Because no matter how much damage she caused, I wasn't going to let her rewrite the story. She could keep her fake smiles, her empty threats, her twisted stories. I had something better. Proof. I sent her the formal separation agreement that weekend. The email was short, clean, clinical. My lawyer had crafted every word like a blade, sharp, precise, impossible to misinterpret. The message was clear. I was done playing the character in her theater of delusion. This was no longer a negotiation. It was a declaration. She didn't respond immediately. For 3 days, silence. Then, late Tuesday, she left a voicemail. Her voice trembling, not from sadness. Rage. You think you can just end this like you're the one who's been wronged? After everything I sacrificed for you? You think some paperwork makes you righteous? You're a coward. She hung up before I could reply. Not that I would've. That same night, she made her move. I came home from a late meeting with my attorney to find the locks changed. My key didn't work. I stood on the porch in the dark, staring at the door like it had betrayed me. My name was still on the lease. Still on the mortgage. My name paid the bills. But now I was an outsider in my own house. I called her. No answer. Called again. Finally, she picked up. Her voice was sugar slick with venom. You wanted separation, right? Well, now you've got it. You changed the locks? You're not welcome here anymore. Go cry to your lawyer. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't plead. I just said that was a mistake. She laughed. Everything you are is a mistake. Then she hung up. And I stood there for a moment, letting that settle. Then I walked away. Not defeated. Resolved. I stayed at a friend's that night, someone who had seen the emails. Who'd watched the security footage I'd captured of her bringing strangers into our home. Who knew the truth without needing it spoon-fed? The next morning I returned, this time with the sheriff. A court order in my hand. The look on her face when she opened the door and saw me standing with a uniformed officer? That was the first time I saw her truly afraid. Ma'am, the officer said, he has every legal right to enter this property. You've changed the locks unlawfully. Her voice was trembling now, no longer theatrical, just cracking under the weight of her own arrogance. He's dangerous, she insisted. The officer looked at me. Calm. Collected. Documented. Where's your evidence, he asked. She had none. I walked past her without a word, straight to her bedroom and retrieved what I came for, a hard drive. 2 journals. A flash drive labeled with a date I'll never forget, the day I realized I was living with a stranger. She followed me, shouting now, saying I was stealing, that I was violating her space. But I'd heard enough. As I reached the front door, I turned. This ends soon, I said. And when it does, you'll be left with the one thing you can't manipulate. She narrowed her eyes. What's that? The truth. And then I left, not looking back. Because the next part wasn't about fighting her anymore. It was about exposing her. In the open. For everyone to see. I never imagined the court system could feel like theater, ugly, slow, and too real. But it was. 2 weeks after the sheriff incident, we stood on opposite ends of a gray courtroom, fluorescent lights buzzing like flies above us. Her lawyer, a man who looked like he'd sell his soul for a retainer fee, kept trying to paint her as the victim of a controlling and emotionally neglectful husband. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. She looked bored. Smug. As if this was just another scene in a performance she'd rehearsed 1,000 times. I said little. Let the documents speak. Let the audio play. That clip, her voice, clearly joking about manipulating me, about keeping me sweet and stupid until I cash out, played through the small courtroom speaker like a funeral bell. Her lawyer tried to object. Claimed it was illegally obtained. It wasn't. She'd sent it through our shared cloud drive. It was mine by law. Every cruel joke. Every line of mockery. Every admission. Then came the receipts. Hotel bookings. Gift charges. Messages sent while I was on work trips. Pictures. Her face didn't break. But her posture changed. She wasn't lounging in the seat anymore. She was upright. Her hands folded tight, the skin of her knuckles blanching with pressure. The judge raised an eyebrow. Asked if she wanted to respond. She declined. I knew what she was doing, waiting for the counterattack. Trying to paint me as bitter. Controlling. Cold. But I didn't give her what she wanted. No outbursts. No monologues. Just quiet, measured truth. It wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about taking back my name. The court ruled in my favor on every front. Asset division leaned heavily toward me. She wouldn't see a cent from my pension. She'd have to vacate the house within 30 days. She stormed out before the ruling was even finished, heels clacking like gunshots down the corridor. But it wasn't over. That evening she called. Not to apologize. Not even to argue. Just to provoke. You think this means you win? She said. You think this makes you clean? I didn't lie, I replied. I didn't cheat. I didn't bring strangers into our home and make you into a punchline for my friends. There was a pause. Then she laughed. That laugh again. Hollow. Vicious. You were always just there, she said. Like wallpaper. I stopped seeing you years ago. I smiled even though she couldn't see it. That's the thing about wallpaper, I said. It doesn't beg for attention. It watches. And it remembers everything. I hung up. Not in anger. In finality. There was nothing left to salvage. She wanted destruction, chaos, confusion. I gave her silence, truth, and a signed verdict. And for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not because I won. Because I survived. And now the cleanup began. The house felt different after she left. Quieter, yes. But not in the lonely way I feared. It was like someone finally turned off the static that had been screaming in the background of my life. The air was still. The energy, mine again. She didn't say goodbye when she moved out. I didn't expect her to. Her absence was louder than any words she could have left behind. The only trace of her was the faint smell of her perfume in the upstairs hallway and a half-empty bottle of shampoo she forgot in the shower. I didn't touch it. Let it sit like a warning label. I started reclaiming the space. Not out of pettiness. Out of necessity. Took down the photos of us smiling through teeth that were clenched behind the scenes. Donated the clothes she left behind, the ones I bought during anniversaries I thought meant something. Rearranged the furniture. Cleaned the baseboards. Ripped up the rug we argued about for months. The house became mine again. But the real shift happened the night her oldest friend, Lacey, called me. We'd barely spoken since the split. I figured she'd taken sides. Most of them did. But when I answered, her voice was low, nervous. I know I shouldn't be calling, she said. But I saw her today. She's spiraling. I didn't say anything. She's telling people you destroyed her life. That you manipulated the courts. That you cheated and made it all look like her fault. Again, silence. But she slipped, Lacey added. Said something she didn't mean to. She admitted she wanted to get caught. Said she needed an excuse to blow up everything and start over. There it was. The truth in a whisper from someone who used to call us relationship goals. She doesn't know who she is without drama, Lacey continued. She needed to be the victim. She needed everyone to hate you so she wouldn't have to hate herself. I didn't respond. Because what do you say to that? I just wanted you to know, Lacey said. Not everyone believes her story. That call ended with a soft, awkward goodbye. But it echoed louder than I expected. Not because it changed anything, but because it confirmed everything. This wasn't about a mistake, or a rough patch, or two people growing apart. This was about someone who needed destruction to feel alive. And when she couldn't find it, she created it. I thought closure would come like a door slamming shut. But instead, it came like a breeze through an open window. Quiet. Simple. I was free. Not from her. That was just the beginning. I was free from the man who let himself be erased. And now, for the first time in years, I could see clearly what came next. The rebuild. On my terms. I didn't throw a party when the divorce was finalized. There was no champagne. No triumphant music. No dramatic speeches about new beginnings. I just stood in my kitchen, reading the final court document alone, the soft hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the room. It was over. Official. Her name was gone. Her signature was just ink on a paper. Not a brand on my life. I didn't feel victorious. I felt quiet. But that kind of quiet is a victory of its own. In the weeks that followed, I began to rebuild not just the house but myself. I woke up early again. Started running, not to escape, but to remember what breathing deeply felt like. I cooked real meals. Sat at the table. Ate slowly. Watched the sky change colors through the windows without wondering who she was texting. I reconnected with old friends, people I'd pushed away to keep the illusion intact. Some welcomed me back without questions. Others listened with furrowed brows as I told them the story, the real one, piece by piece. And through those conversations I realized something vital. She never broke me. She bent me. Distorted me. Made me question my worth, my sanity, my instincts. But she never shattered me. I was still here. Still standing. There was one last thing I had to do. One last piece of the past I hadn't let go. In our closet, my closet now, at the very back, was a small box. Inside it were the keepsakes I hadn't been ready to toss, a movie ticket from our first date, a bracelet I bought her in Florence, a letter she wrote once when she still remembered how to mean things. I took it all out, looked at it one last time. Then I walked to the fire pit in the backyard and watched it all burn. No theatrics. No tears. Just fire doing what fire does, clearing space for new ground. She mocked me as a weakling in front of her friends. I stayed silent, swallowing every insult. But when she brought her lover into our bed, that was it. The mask dropped. And so did the hammer of a fury she never imagined. I don't regret how I handled it. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I didn't stoop to her level. I built my response from truth and patience. And when it dropped, it crushed everything false she stood on. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar place, don't beg someone to value you. Don't let someone's chaos convince you that your peace is weakness. Document. Observe. Be still. Then move and don't look back. Because there is power in silence. There is fire in grace. And there is freedom in finally choosing yourself.